Hi everybody, I hope that you're all doing really well. So this is actually the first Vlogmas video that I am filming. I don't think it's going to be the first one that goes up, but, you know, welcome to Vlogmas! In this video today, I am going to go through all of my Christmas books that I currently own, as well as a couple of Christmas books that I'm really keen to get to. But firstly, before we get into that, I want to show you my Christmas jumper that I'm wearing because I am attempting to wear something kind of festive in all of these videos, which means that I have recruited both my mum and my sister to pile on as many Christmas jumpers as humanly possible. So this one is a number from my sister. This actually used to belong to me, but my sister gets all of my hand-me-downs now. I think this is from about 7 years ago. It's from New Look. It's got these two little robins. And yeah, like I say, this jumper used to belong to me. However, I would progressively get more and more annoyed every time I wore this jumper because every single time I wore this jumper, my mum would look at it and she would say, I like your red breast, Charlotte. And there's only so many times you can hear the same joke. And alongside that, as I get older, I notice that I get colder as well. And like, this is a nice jumper and all, but like it's a fairly low neckline for me and it's like fairly thin knitted material and I just get too cold for that. So yeah, I passed it along to my sister, but very grateful to her that she let me borrow it for this video. But yes, I am a very big fan of a good Christmas book, as you'll probably have seen in my bookshelf tour or in videos where I've mentioned my Christmas bookshelf. I've been slowly over the years trying to collect more and more books that are all to do with Christmas because it's my favourite time of the year. Now, my collection is not excessive. I don't have like every single Christmas book ever written, but you know, every year I like to get 1 or 2 books just to commemorate the season. So here I just have a little collection of fiction and non-fiction books about Christmas. So actually I'm going to start with a couple of YA books, which were the first Christmas books that I ever picked up. Firstly, we have this stunning little book, which is My True Love Gave to Me 12 Winter Romances. So here we have 12 little YA short stories written by Holly Black, Ali Carter, Matt de la Pena, Gail Foreman, Jenny Hahn, David Levithan, Kelly Lenk, Myra McIntyre, Stephanie Perkins, Rainbow Rowell, Lainey Taylor and Kirsten White, which is basically like a roll call of all of the really popular YA authors from 2014. I'm not gonna lie to you, I feel like I mainly picked this up because of the cover. I just think this is so pretty, and even though I'm not a massive fan of sprayed edges, like this neon pink, oh, it's beautiful. I think, as typically happens with short story collections where it's lots of different authors, there were some in here that I thought were really cute and others that I was kind of like, on. From what I actually remember of reading this all those years ago, I think it was actually the first story in this, which was Midnight by Rainbow Rowell, which was my favourite of the bunch. So, you know, we got off to a good start and then the others were just not quite as good. But it's a beautiful thing. I'm glad that I have it. I'm glad that I did give it a chance. And then the second more YA Christmas book that I have is Dash and Lily's Book of Dares by David Levithan and Rachel Cohn. In this book we follow Lily, who is a massive fan of Christmas and everything about Christmas, kind of like me. And one day she decides to leave a notebook in a bookshop which is full of different challenges for whoever picks it up to do. And then the other main character, Dash, who is slightly more cynical when it comes to Christmas, ends up picking it up, but finds himself very quickly charmed. And the story follows the two of them passing the notebook backwards and forwards in secret locations where they've agreed to give it to each other, setting each other fun challenges and just really maximising the Christmas season. I remember thinking that this was really funny, really cute. I really like the fact that it is co-written, so we have Lily's point of view written by Rachel Cohn and then Dash's point of view written by David Levithan. I feel like the two authors really bounced off quite nicely from each other. I think I read this back in 2014, 2015, so it's been a few years, but I do believe that Netflix have actually made a film about this recently, so I might be tempted to watch that and see if I like the story just as much now. I forgot that I actually own a couple of Christmassy children's books, so I have to throw them into the mix. So firstly, we have The Christmassaurus by Tom Fletcher, which follows a little boy called William Trundle who stumbles across a dinosaur from the North Pole and the weird wacky hijinks that they get up to. Once again, another really cute story, and considering that my niece at the moment particularly loves dinosaurs, I feel like this is one that when she's a little bit older, she'll definitely enjoy. I don't think I'd be allowed to do this video talking about children's books which deal with Christmas without mentioning The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe by C.S. Lewis. Now, I have mentioned in the past that the Chronicles of Narnia are not my favourite fantasy series, but I have to say, of all of the books, this was definitely my favourite. All about the 4 Pevensey children, Peter, Edmund, Susan and Lucy, who stumble through a wardrobe into the magical land of Narnia. However, when they get there, Narnia is in trouble, having been taken over by Jadis, the White Witch, who makes it so that it is always winter but never Christmas. And in their quest to overthrow the White Witch, and particularly to find Aslan, who is going to be be kind of the saviour who will bring back spring, they actually end up meeting Father Christmas along the way, who in the 2005 movie, I didn't realise until really recently, was Lord Commander Mormont from Game of Thrones. Like, what? Just, you know, casually giving swords and bows and arrows to children. A bookish Christmas tradition that I really enjoyed indulging in the years when Carol Ann Duffy was the Poet Laureate for the UK was picking up some of her Christmas poems. I believe she published 10 of these Christmas books, one for every year that she was the Poet Laureate, all focused on a different Christmas story. A little bit annoyingly, I have this Mrs. Scrooge by Carol Ann Duffy in this massive size. I don't know what happened with the order because it was meant to be one of these little ones, but this is what they gave me and I wasn't going to waste money by buying a new one, you know, this is fine. So here we have a gender-flipped version of A Christmas Carol in which a modern-day Mrs. Scrooge finds herself whisked away by the ghosts of Christmas past, Christmas present and Christmas yet to come. We have Frost Fair, which is set in London during the Great Winter of 1683. I should also point out that whilst these are beautifully written, they also come with stunning illustrations. Look at that. Another Night Before Christmas, which as you can tell is a retelling of The Night Before Christmas. In this we've got more like woodcut designs, which are really gorgeous. Wenceslas, so a riff on Good King Wenceslas. Like just, oh, it's so pretty. Dorothy Wordsworth's Christmas Birthday. Like, I want to eat some of that food. The Wren Boys. Oh, I think this is the prettiest one. The King of Christmas, in which this kingdom decide to appoint a peasant as the King of Christmas. There we go. Bethlehem, which is of course a retelling of the Nativity. The Three Wise Men. Pablo Picasso's Noel. I just love that they have different artistic designs each time. Like, oh. And then my personal favourite, which is The Christmas Truce. This of course tells the story of the first Christmas during World War I, in which the British, French and German forces decided to have ceasefire just for one day. The different armies would sing carols to each other, they even got up into no man's land and started playing football with each other, swapping cigarettes, having coffee. Like I say, this is my favourite of the lot. Maybe predictably because I am a history student, I like the historical retellings, but yeah. I just think it's such a heartwarming story in the midst of so much devastation. Next up, we have Dickens at Christmas, which is basically everything that Charles Dickens ever wrote about Christmas. This includes A Christmas Carol, of course, but also includes some of his short stories and includes a quote from Charles Dickens on the back, which I absolutely love. Christmas time! That man must be a misanthrope indeed, in whose breast something like the jovial feeling is not roused by the recurrence of Christmas. There are people who will tell you that Christmas is not to them what it used to be, that each succeeding Christmas has found some cherished hope dimmed or passed away. Never heed such dismal reminiscences. Do not select the merriest of the 365 for your doleful recollections, but draw your chair nearer to the blazing fire, and if your glass be filled with reeking punch instead of sparkling wine, put a good face on the matter and empty it offhand and fill another, and thank God it's no worse. I feel like I can definitely read that out this year, and it has a kind of poignancy in a way that it never had before. Now, like I say, that edition of Dickens at Christmas does include A Christmas Carol in its number. However, I do have a separate copy. I've got this stunning Pelican edition of A Christmas Carol, which I have said in the past is one of my favourite books of all time. Ebenezer Scrooge is one of my favourite characters in all of fiction. I just love the journey that he goes from being this bitter misanthrope to becoming like one with the season of Christmas and being much more charitable and generous to people that he meets. It's definitely a book that I'm planning on rereading this year and I'm so looking forward to it. Next up, I have Christmas Days, 12 Stories and 12 Feasts for 12 Days by Jeanette Winterson. As the title very much suggests, this has 12 stories written by Jeanette Winterson accompanied by 12 different recipes from Jeanette and other people that she knows. I know that this is a collection that a lot of people really love and I thought it was okay. However, I do kind of notice that I often think I'm much more of a short story person than I actually am. I feel like a lot of the short stories in here have kind of that more like whimsical fairy tale vibe, which I'm coming to realise is not actually my thing at all. And I don't know why, because like I love myth retelling, so why don't I like fairy tale retellings? And maybe I should have expected it because actually when I read Oranges Are Not the Only Fruit, which is I think probably her most famous work, I really enjoyed it, but the parts of it where I did start to feel my brain kind of turning off were some of the fairy tale retelling bits. There are little sections peppered into that book where it is kind of more of a fairy tale retelling and how it kind of relates to her life. And it was at that point while reading it while I felt myself wanting to skip. So I feel like there are a lot of people who are going to really enjoy this. This just isn't my most favourite Christmas book ever. Next up we have Round the Christmas Fire, which is festive story stories from many different authors, which begins my collection of 3 different anthologies of lots of different authors and their writing about Christmas. So in here we do have Charles Dickens, but we've also got Truman Capote, P.G. Wodehouse, Edith Wharton, Laurie Lee, Nancy Mitford, loads of different people, so there will certainly be something in here for anyone who reads it. Once again, can we talk about how pretty this is? Then on a similar vein, we've got the Faber book of Christmas. Instead of just short stories, this includes poems and prose writings, little excerpts from novels. And I think for a lot of people, the main draw to this is the fact that it comes designed, decked out in this beautiful Liberty of London fabric print. It is a very beautiful thing. But I think my favourite of the 3 Christmas anthologies that I have is this. It is A Literary Christmas, an anthology by the British Library. Once again, this includes poems, short stories, little prose excerpts from people's novels. I'd say this probably has the widest scope in terms of the different authors and when they were writing. We've got William Shakespeare, we've got Samuel Pepys, but we've also got Benjamin Zephaniah, and then, you know, some Charles Dickens, some Jane Austen, George Eliot in between. And also comes with some gorgeous illustrations, and we know that I love a good illustration. And then another real favourite of mine is this. It is A Tudor Christmas by Alison Weir and Siobhan Clarke. This is just a little pocket history of how the Tudors celebrated Christmas. I think through this, Alison Weir and Siobhan Clarke really work to try and subvert this idea that a lot of us have that it was the Victorians where we got all of our big Christmas traditions. That actually there is a lot that we have maintained from much earlier. That yes, whilst there aren't Christmas trees and Christmas cards, there is still caroling, there is still mince pies. It's really, really interesting to read this and see what things have been retained from back in the 1500s and what we've kind of left by the wayside. I actually really like how this is set up. It is split up into the different days of Christmas from the 24th of December up to the 6th of January, especially because I am from a family who like to keep our Christmas decorations up until the Epiphany and the 6th of January. I quite appreciated that it goes as far as that. And then just to talk about a few books that I have not yet read, and one of them that I do currently own is Christmas Shopaholic by Sophie Kinsella. I was quite a big fan of the Shopaholic series by Sophie Kinsella growing up, especially as a teenager. However, for how much I like them, I actually haven't picked up a Shopaholic book since about 2014, 2015, which means that the last 3 books that have come out in the series, which I think is Shopaholic to the Star, Shopaholic to the Rescue, and then finally Christmas Shopaholic, I've not read yet. And I love this series, it's such good fun. So for those of you who are not in the Sophie Kinsella club, the Shopaholic series follows the life of Becky Bloomwood, who is a notorious shopaholic and who often uses a lot of self-manipulative tactics to justify why she buys a lot of the things that she does. Peppered in through each of the books are different letters and emails that she gets to do with her shopping addiction, whether that be from the bank, whether it be from different shops that she's taken out store cards at. And every single book starts with the same 3 lines: okay, don't panic, don't panic. Even though it is kind of the same story over and over again and it feels like Becky never really learns her lesson, I just get so much joy from this series because it is so funny. So the fact that I haven't read any of the new installments in this series, I think is kind of shocking and I need to do better. I do like to keep a little seasonal Christmassy wish list of all of the books that I would eventually like to get around to, but I'm just going to mention 2 for you today. First off is A Christmas Cornucopia, Hidden Stories Behind Our Yuletide Traditions by Mark Forsyth. Mark Forsyth you might already know the name of because he wrote the Horologicon, the Etymologicon, and also one of my personal favourites, A Short History of Drunkenness. And yeah, just really goes into all of the different traditions and kind of showing to us how strange it is, some of the things that we do at Christmas time. There's also Christmas, a Biography by Judith Flanders, which I'm really keen to get to this year. Once again, going through all of our different Christmas traditions and how they came to be. And yeah, you could definitely make the argument that a lot of the Christmas books that I pick up are kind of repetitive and are going through the same stuff, retreading the same ground. But I think that's why I only like to buy 1 or 2 of them each year rather than like gorging on loads of them at once. I feel like that way I keep it nice and fresh for myself and I do find it really enjoyable. I just like to have a little bit of seasonal reading to get me through December and just give me a little pep in my reading. But anyway, yes, those were all of the Christmas books that I currently own, as well as a couple that I am quite keen to get to. Do let me know if you have read any of the books that I have mentioned and any that you think that I would be very interested in, any that you think I would like. I'd love to hear from you. I hope you're having a fantastic, fantastic day and I look forward to talking to you again soon. Thanks. Bye.